Our next researcher turned CEO is HY, who's going to tell us about Alluxio, formerly Tachyon, and before that we've learned formerly T-Rex. So
thank you.
As long as you're all ready to go?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. Really glad to be here, and thanks for your time. So today I'm going to talk about Alluxio. So what we do is that we unify data at memory speed, and really honored to be here today. So the first slide is about the history. And Yang this morning talked about the very first name, T-Rex. That's actually the first released name. And before that, it was called cheetah, the very fast animal. That's the reason we picked that name. And very soon, we found that a lot of fast animal names have been picked by other software. And Apple picked a lot for their operating systems. And then we chose the name T-Rex. And that was sort of the logo we wanted for this name. That's the first year. And after that, we transitioned the name to be Tachyon. And the reason for this name is that, like a lot of people pick names from animals, and we are fine with it. But we say, okay, we want to pick a very geeky name. Actually, I'm co-advised by Jan Stoiker and Scott Shankar. And Scott Shankar, he has a physics PhD, and he proposed this name, which is a physical particle faster than light. And that was our logo. And if you Google Tachyon, that's the second picture is what shows on Google image. And later on, we became more popular, and turns out we couldn't use the Tachyon name anymore, and for different reasons. And then we picked another name called Alluxio. And people ask me, what's the meaning of this name? It's a made-up word, and there are different explanations, and there's no official one. But one meaning is that you can think of lux in the middle. That's a Latin word represents for light. And in the meantime, you can also understand it as luxury. And you can basically all light I/O or all luxury I/O. Shows that we are very fast as well. So that's the naming part. So I joined the lab. I was very fortunate to join the AMP lab in the year of 2011. And that was my first year PhD. And also, I was very lucky. That's the first year in the lab as well. And then I spent my first year actually was doing Spark. And I'm a co-creator of Spark streaming for the first year. Very fortunate to work with great colleagues as my advisors. And then after that, from the second year, we thought about, okay, so Spark is very popular in the lab, in the industry. In the meantime, we have a great resource manager, which is Mesos. But we're still missing something to share the data between different Spark applications. That was a very initial idea, and me and my colleagues, as well as advisors, worked on. And very soon we found, actually, we can even broaden this idea and to share the data across different frameworks, as well as to extract the data from different storage systems. And then we pursued that idea, and we started this project in the summer of 2012. And in the summer of 2013, we actually open sourced the first version, the 0.2, to the public. And since then, the open source software under Apache 2.0 license has been growing very fast. And actually, currently, we're the fastest growing big data open source project. And 3.5 years open source history, and we have more than 400 contributors. Very luckily, a lot of enthusiast people in the community to contribute to the software, to the open source software from more than 100 companies. And in the meantime, some of the people are running our software in world's largest production clusters. And here, I would like to extend an invite to everyone in the room as well who watched the video to join the community as well. So that's about open source. And then since the session's topic is about the company, so we have one page, actually we have 2 pages about the company. So the one is that after the open source project started to take off, and we thought about it, we say, okay, we want to further deliver more value to the community as well to the wider industry. So the company was the only way to go. So that's the reason we started the company in early 2015. In the meantime, got investment from the Andreessen Horowitz. And currently, the teams are expert in the same field in the distributed systems from Google, Palantir's, Uber, and with a master or PhDs from UC Berkeley, also Stanford and CMU. And we have the top 10 committers of the Alluxio open source project. We have a lot of exciting things to do. And in the meantime, we're hiring, so if you have friends. So Alluxio, as I mentioned at the title page, we unify data at memory speed, and it can be very wide in terms of applications. So in this presentation, since Amplab is a big data powerhouse from the very beginning, so we focus on the big data ecosystem to show what is the trend in the big data ecosystem, what has happened, what's the issue, and what's the motivation, what's the value we bring into this ecosystem. If you look at the ecosystem, it started around 10 years ago. It's just MapReduce and HDFS, very simple ecosystem. Along the way, during the past 1 decade, what happened was that all the companies and the organizations, they started to collect, store, and analyze much more data. And that's just what happened. And this attracted many more vendors from the industry to keep innovating in this whole ecosystem and develop new products for the customers and for the industry. And what you can see here is that we basically see this in 2 layers. One layer is a storage layer, and in that layer, nowadays, you have so many storage options. At the beginning, that's HDFS, and now you have public cloud offering like Amazon, S3, Google, Microsoft, Alibaba, many others. In the meantime, you have private cloud like HPE, like Huawei. They provide private cloud solution. And also, you have traditional storage vendors like EMC, IBM, and many others. You can easily find more than 30 storage products out there. And on the other side, from the compute perspective, there are many computation frameworks as well. Of course, we have a very general computation framework like MapReduce and hugely popular one like Spark, which originated here as well. In the meantime, we have other specialized computation frameworks as well. And what we found is that there are more than 30 to 50 frameworks. They have sizable revenue, which provide values to the customers globally. And that's the big data ecosystem involvement. And with this involvement, it's super great for the customers. However, this leads to an issue, which is the ecosystem become very complex. Therefore, it is very hard for the enterprise customers to consume this ecosystem. And in the meantime, another issue is that because so many different types of storage systems, they are not built for this type of workload, therefore, the performance is very bad in many cases. So that's the issue we're seeing. So then, nowadays, Alluxio sits in the middle between all different compute as well as different storage systems. And we unify data and memory speed. What does that mean? So it means that we virtualize all the data from different storage systems concurrently. And in the meantime, present a single API or a unified API with a global file system namespace to the upper layer applications as well as frameworks. You can think of, you will have customers running like Spark, like Flink concurrently on top of Alluxio co-located and use Alluxio to access data from different storage systems at a very, very fast speed. And you can make an analogy, like say around 10 years ago when we were still using PCs. When we're using PC, you may have different SSDs, HDDs, as well as NFS, like from different vendors, maybe from Western Digital, from Seagate, Microsoft, NetApps, right? So there are different storage systems. But from the user perspective, you only see a folder in your file system, and it is very simple. It's very simple. And the user only care, they want to save some data, later on they want to read it back, they want to have certain SLA guarantee. And we achieve the exactly same thing for the data center environment as well as multi-data center environment. So that's from the high level what we do. And in one sentence, that is, we enable different applications to interact with the data from different storage systems at the memory speed. Great. So then sometimes we got the question asking why do I need to use Alluxio? And what's special about you guys? So here are several factors why we're special. So one thing is, even though the computation and the storage systems become separate again, like before the 10 years ago, before the Google 2 papers. However, with that, the key issue is that the performance is pretty bad and data management is really hard. And what we do is we co-locate and manage compute-side storage with the computation systems. And that's what we do at Alluxio. And in the meantime, the second point is that we virtualize the data from different storage, and we smartly, intelligently move the data depends on the need from the workload, from the customers. And the other thing is that it's a scale-out architecture systems. There are people running us 5 nodes, 50 nodes, 1,000 nodes, etc. And in the end, it's a file system. We provide a file system API at the moment. We focus on that. And we are a software-only solution. And this makes it very easy for the customer to deploy without buying new machines. And then, from a user-customer perspective, we provide many benefits, but here are several key benefits here. One is about unification. And we really unify the data and make the upper layer life much easier to consume all the data. And the second point is about performance. And we provide significant performance improvement in many different types of workload. And we will demonstrate, we'll showcase these two benefits in the later several production use cases. And the last thing here we want to talk about is flexibility. What does it mean? Is that if you deploy Alluxio in your data centers, in your architecture, one strong benefit you have is that you will have the faster innovation speed for your whole infrastructure as well. And actually, my advisor, Jan Stoika, once said Alluxio to storage in big data area is like IP to the internet. So from that perspective, so we make the innovation much faster in this upper layer area and lower layer area. So the northbound computation systems, when they innovate, they don't need to worry about the southbound storage systems, and vice versa. And Alluxio community is growing very fast, and the system is also trusted by many world's leading companies. And this is a very small subset of the companies which are using Alluxio. And we're very fortunate. For example, we have internet companies globally from US, from China. We have banks from Europe, from US as well. And we have IT companies like Huawei, like Juniper, of carriers, and we have all sorts of exciting companies. And in this presentation, I'm only going to go into 3 examples in a bit more detail to showcase what type of value this system brings in to these different companies. And the first one is Baidu's case. So Baidu, one of their Alluxio deployment, run Alluxio in production for more than 2 years. And it's a 200 nodes deployment. And we manage both memory and HDD, and more than 2 petabytes of space. And this system, they run Spark on top of Alluxio, and Alluxio on top of a remote Baidu file system. And they have more than 100 Baidu product managers as well analysts. They run interactive queries on this system on a daily basis to derive insights and value to faster innovate for their products and improve their business. And in the meantime, they have found 5 to 30 times performance improvement by using this new architecture. And they actually published a white paper to describe a very detailed explanation about what's the new architecture and compare what's the previous architecture. And it's a very interesting use case. And the second use case here is that people use Alluxio to share the data between different jobs at memory speed. And this is a Barclay use case. So what they do is that they run Spark, also run Spark on top of Alluxio, and they pull the data from Teradata into Alluxio systems, into Alluxio system. And they use the system to do queries as well as machine learning to better serve, to train the models for their risk analysis department. And in the meantime, they have seen the dramatic performance improvement as well. And there's another interesting point is that they use this system to fulfill certain data regulation from Europe market, which is that the data put out from Teradata cannot be stored in another disk-based storage, but they use Alluxio's memory space only. Therefore, they can do this. Great. And then the third one we want to talk about here is that people use Alluxio to manage data across different storage systems. And this particular case is a Qunar. It's China's Expedia, and they are listed in NASDAQ with a $5 billion market cap. So what they do is that they run both Spark streaming as well as Flink on top of Alluxio, and use Alluxio to manage both HDFS as well as Ceph concurrently. And they have a 200 nodes production deployment for more than a year. And they use this system to do real-time machine learning to recommend advertisement on their websites, which is very critical for their revenue generation. And they really like this unified namespace feature to manage different storage systems concurrently. In the meantime, they have found significant performance improvement as well. And they have been providing great feedback to the community. And similarly to this case, we have another use case vendor is another big company which is using us to manage the data centers, the different data centers globally, from 3 different continents. And they use Alluxio and to have a global view to be able to manage all those data in a very transparent manner. Great. And then I promised at the beginning I only have 2 pages about the company. And the Alluxio, we provide a very simple product offering to serve our customers. So we have the open source technology, which is cutting edge technology to evolve very fast. In the meantime, we developed Alluxio Community Edition, which is free. So we use Community Edition for a broader industry to faster adopt the technology to bring them the benefit. And in the end, we have Alluxio Enterprise Edition, and we use this to really serve the enterprise customers for them to really easily have the mind in peace to use the technology, and also with a great enterprise support as well as great enterprise features. And that's what we do. And in the end, so I want to present this picture again. So people, all different companies, different vendors are acknowledging the trend of separation of storage and compute. And we are seeing the world is becoming more and more complex. Based on the companies are becoming bigger and bigger. They have a more complex ecosystem. They have more products you can choose. So what we are doing here at Alluxio is really trying to solve this issue. On the way to solve this issue, to make the whole environment much easier to consume, therefore make our customer can focus on their key product to bring their unique value to their customers. And there's still a long way to go. There are so many things we can build on top of this. You can think of, say, for example, like VMware back in the days, they really revolutionized the single machine, virtualized a single machine. And Mesosphere, they are virtualizing the computation, data center computation resource. Like Nicira, they are virtualizing the network resources, and the Alluxio, we are really virtualizing all the storage resource globally for our customers. And here we also welcome more people joining the community or fund us if you are interested in trying or using this out. And in the end, again, look back, it's been 5 years since I joined the lab. Personally, it has been very fortunate for myself to be in this great environment, to have the great advisors, great faculty in the lab, as well as great colleagues I can learn from. And here I really congrats to the lab and wish the best of luck to the RISE lab as well. And want to thank you all for taking your time listening to this. Thank you.